What is up YouTube, HBJ here, and welcome to today's video. We're taking a look at Pharonic Legend. This is a pack in the OCG that will be part of the VJump for the next set of VJumps that will be released, I want to say in about a month. In a month's time. So if you are subscribed to the VJump, you will be automatically receiving these cards. It's not just the ones that we see here. There's also another tab I'll be opening to showcase another card that was featured in the VJump promotion that was kept secret for a while, and they basically said these cards will support the new support for Ishizu Ishtar's deck, because Ishizu is one of the 3 duelists that will be featured in the next duelist pack. Duelist of the Advent. No, I'm sorry, not Duelist of the Advent. Duelist of the Pharonics, which is basically focusing on Earth attributed monsters and Earth attributed duelists. And with that said, the Pharonic Legends information is telling you that it's going to be focusing on supporting cards to support the 3 Gravekeepers that were featured in the show. And for those who want to know who they are, those are reference to Ishizu, Merrick, and Odeon, because they actually have some text here that talks about the references and conjunctions to them, as well as the fact that Clardine, the Great Sage, will also be a card featured in the VJump, that if you purchase VJump, you'll be receiving that card as well. And we will be talking about him as well. I feel like that all should have been in one pack, but this is just the VJump, and they do that because I've actually bought stuff online from eBay from Japan when it came to the VJump, because Harpie's pet dragon, Fearsome Fire Blast, is actually 1 day old, is 1 year old. Yeah, that monster was actually released a year ago today in the VJump for the OCG. Sadly enough, we have not seen this card get released here in the TCG, so that's for another video. But anyway, we're going to talk about the 3 cards here in the Pharonic Legends pack, and then we're also going to talk about the Great Sage as well, and what connections they have and how powerful they can be. So first off is Pharonic Advance. So this is one of the first monsters that we've seen. He's a level 8 dark attribute subcaster type monster with 2000 attack and defense. You can use this card's first and third effect once per turn each. You can tribute 1 monster, so summon this card from your hand. This card gains 300 attack for each continuous trap card on the field or in the graveyard. You can tribute 1 fairy, fiend, or reptile monster to add 1 continuous trap from your deck to your hand. Also, you can't special summon monsters for the rest of the turn. The next card up is the Gravekeepers Engraving. Normal spell. At the start of your main phase, apply one of these effects to both players until the end of your opponent's turn. They cannot activate card effects in the graveyard. They cannot banish cards from the graveyard. They cannot special summon monsters from the graveyard. The next card in the last of it is a homage to embodiment of Apopus. This is Apopus, the Swamp Deity. Continuous trap card effects read during the main phase, you summon this card as a normal monster. Reptile Earth attribute level 6, 2000 attack, 2200 defense. This card is also still a trap. Then you can negate the effects of face up cards your opponent controls up to the number of other continuous traps you control until the end of this turn. And then, of course, let's move over to Clardine, the Great Sage. Level 4, Earth Attribute Fairy Type Effect Monster, 1400 attack, 1000 defense. Effect 1, this card is normal summon. You can set 1 continuous trap from your hand or graveyard, and it can be activated this turn. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can make all face-up trap cards you currently control become unable to be destroyed by your opponent's card effects until the end of the next turn. By the way, this monster's name is in relevance to Abu Qurdan, the bird found in Egypt. Okay. So with that said, let's take a look at all of these cards. Overall, they're going to be supporting continuous traps, and this is a very monumental moment for Yu-Gi-Oh because it's very, very rare where there are cards to support continuous traps. Unless they are archetype exclusive continuous trap cards, many of these cards would not have been supported by support from continuous traps, or they would have been archetype exclusive cards, then they would have been supported by cards to support support that particular archetype. Considering the fact that Pharonics do not have an attachment to any particular archetype, this Pharonic Advent basically can be a decent enough floater depending on what deck you put him in. The fact that he's able to tribute a fiend, a fairy, or a reptile to get a continuous trap and act from your deck to your hand can be very useful for those decks who do specialize in continuous trap cards. I think for the most part, from my big understanding, the weather painters, but I do believe they need to special summon. You can do something like maybe skill drain decks, Cleafort, because Cleafort don't really care about the special summon; they're more concerned about their normal. Um, and then if you can't special summon the rest of the turn, I think with Cleafort that's perfectly fine because then you can just do all of your special summoning first, and then drop Advent, and then go get skill drain, and then you can set up for when your opponent turn goes, and then you can basically feed off of that. The fact that this is a 2K attack and defense spellcaster doesn't kind of really help its case because unfortunately it's very, very limited to search, very limited to its own setup for things. The only other card I can honestly think, excuse me for running, the only thing I can really think about that would get this card itself out because it doesn't have any restrictions of special summoning is something like Magician's Circle. Luckily enough, this monster has enough attack and defense to equal the total requirements for Magician's Circle. So it could be an easy summon off of that card. And then you can just tribute the fairy, the fiend, or the reptile to go get the cell. I do know there are a couple of fairy, fiends, and reptile decks that could use use support like this, or could use some support like this because they use continuous spells and traps. I think with fairies, for the most part, it's most likely a combination of two things. The Sanctuary in the Sky, although this monster is a spellcaster, you're basically searching for some of your continuous stuff to support you, which I don't think they run anything continuous off the top of my head. I do want to say maybe skill. I did say skill drain decks because there are some decks that can run skill drain, and then you can use monsters that are reptile. Excuse me, to be beast decks. I'm also thinking fiend, but I don't think there's too many fiends. No, labyrinth. I think labyrinth has continuous spells and traps that they can feed off of with this thing, and it might actually be beneficial to them. With that said, I mean, skill drain is one big oomph. Anti-spell fragrance is another, so that you can force your opponent to have to set spells, and then you can, fling on to skill drain and stuff like that to keep things going around. Which seems enough. Moving on, let's actually scroll down to Gravekeepers Engraving. So if you wanted a normal spell version of Necro Valley, this is pretty much it. So the big thing about this card is that it forces both players to have to deal with the effect that you choose to affect your opponent with. So you can have the ability to basically force card effects to not activate while in the grave. You can force the ability of banishing cards from the grave to be nullified, and then you can also stop monsters to be sent from the graveyard. Every one of these effects is basically what Necro Valley is as a whole. So what is the real implications of this? Well, it's really good during your main phase 1 because then you can apply these effects to stop your opponent from doing card effects that would hinder you. The only thing I can really think is I think most card effects are going to activate when they're discarded. and they're going to trigger as effects. I don't know if they're going to trigger in the grave or do they trigger in the hand. So I'm 9 out of 10 going to say it's probably a dead effect for cards like Ash, Bella, Effect Veiler, Maxi, and stuff like that. However, I think it's more so useful for cards in the graveyard to make sure that they don't do anything to prevent you from doing what you need to do when it comes to your plays in your set. So, I mean, this is just a good side-in card, or unless your deck is just something that wants to negate, this would most likely be one of your advents there. Speaking of advents, let's talk about Uphelpus. So, getting a newer version of yourself to really just be there to massively negate isn't a bad thing. Um, However, you're a continuous trap, so you'd have to wait to be set unless you combine it with the effect of um I'm sorry. When you combine it with the effects of someone like Clardine, the Great Sage, because otherwise, a Popus is probably just going to be there as a body, and then most likely you're just going to link or exceed um, with the deity of the swamp, with the swamp deity, and then make bigger monsters with it. Because what, it's level 6. Yeah, get a couple of these running around. Yeah, you should. Yeah. Excuse me, there could be possibilities of making some big exceed monsters with this. Or basically linking into stuff. It's technically still a monster, so you can, link with it to get more monsters onto board. I think that is a nice touch to add the ability to protect. To negate card effects based on the number of continuous traps you control, because there can be some spam of that as well. So, all right, and then let's talk about the Great Sage. So, Cordon really can be useful, and it's a very strange thing to say. Now, in terms of splashable, uh, maybe because you could probably put him in Gravekeeper. If that's the thing, you can grab the Tune card for Necro Valley. You can grab the other Necro Valley card, the one that has Ishizu on it. The Gravekeeper. Is it called Gravekeepers? I forget what it's called. But yeah, it's the one with the Shizu on it. You can go get Gravekeeper cards. I think that'd be a great addition to that as well, considering that's a continuous trap. Um, I'm just trying to think. Yeah, it's just basically getting continuous traps and playing around with them is what this card does, and I think that's pretty cool. It's all on a normal summon, so you're gonna be wasting a turn to do that. Um, if you can work around that whole issue of normal summon, I think you'll be perfectly fine with this. I'm actually also glad that they did not make the Secret Keeper card, and they also did not make um, the other cards was against the Secret Keeper. But they did keep the whole theme of being part of ancient Egypt in there, which is cool. So with that said, I think there's going to be a lot of buffs to continuous trap focus decks. I can't really think of any off the top of my head. Oh, Destiny board. Decks that can manipulate skill drain, the weather painters because of their continuous traps and the effects that they do. Gravekeepers have a couple of things. Burn because of dark. What is it? Dark reactions to bad reactions to Sumachi, or is it Sumochi? I don't know. I've always called it Sumochi. Some people call it Sumachi, but it's just whatever you guys want to call it. Anyway, yeah, this is even some buffs to some of those decks that I just mentioned, and probably some more that I can't really think of off my head. But hey, it is some things to be, looking out for if you're focusing on those particular aspects of the game. So, let me know what you guys think in the comment section about all this information and all about these cards that will be coming in the next VJump, and do you possibly see them coming to the TCG? So with that said, thank you guys so much for watching. I want to wrap up the video here. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel as it helps out tremendously. You can also hit the notification bell so you guys can be informed of when I do upload more content to the channel. And in the description box below are my social media links. So if you guys want to interact with me on social media, you definitely can. And you can watch me on Twitch at twitch.tv/HarpiePlayerJoe, where I will be doing some content for gaming all over. And with that said, thank you guys so much, and I will catch you all next time. HPJ signing out. Take care.